bossing in RuneScape can get pricey, but it doesn't have to be. In this video, I'll show you smart ways to save money while PvMing, so whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Unless you've completely mastered a boss and soul split flicking, chances are you still eat food to heal up. Take the following example. This player is using sailfish as their solid or primary food, blue blubber jellyfish for their secondary food, and some sourdough and brew flasks as well. Other inventory setup items have purposely been excluded. As a tip, if you keybind your items correctly, you can use all three of these items to heal up in a single tick called tick eating. Now, consumption rates will vary from player to player and from boss to boss, but let's say that this player uses 100 solid foods per hour, 25 blubbers, and 25 sourdough and brews. Shockingly, this setup has a massive cost of 1.3 million coins per hour. I say shockingly because you can swap out your solids, secondaries, and brew flasks for cheaper alternatives that are nearly identical and reduce your cost per hour by 62%. In the example shown, sailfish are swapped out for rocktails, which only heal 100 life points less. Blue blubbers are swapped out for green blubbers, which do heal about 33% less. And sourdough and brew flasks are swapped out for sourdough and brew 4 doses. There are some downsides to this more cost-effective setup, including less overall healing potential per tick due to the lower tier blubbers, and less overall healing potential per inventory. However, these are only downsides if you aren't comfortable with the boss you're killing just yet. For example, for your first few times at Tezkelzuk, I would recommend flasks and blue blubbers simply because you don't know the routes yet and there's a good chance you're going to panic and eat much more than you actually need. Another exception would be really high enraged streaking or places where you're making so much money that it doesn't matter if you're spending a little bit more on your consumables. But for a lot of other situations, you can save money by using cheaper consumables. This is also the case for some other potions in flask form. Take for example super restores, which in a 6-dose flask are nearly 4 times as expensive as regular 4-dose super restores. Another common mistake is using overloads that are overqualified for the lower tier bosses and Slayer content you're doing. Chances are an Elder Overload potion, which still might be too much, is going to do just fine opposed to an Elder Overload salve at plenty of content in the game. You don't need a super anti-fire, super anti-poison, and prayer renewal all in one in that single potion. Especially if you're using other things to sustain prayers such as the Penance Aura or perhaps a Power of Penance, which by the way is expensive on its own. RuneScape has a lot of consumables, and if you're doing high level PvM, it can get expensive quick. Sometimes it's a necessary evil to easily farm a boss, in which case increased kill times and quality of life are definitely worth the money. Think vulnerability bombs, incense sticks, familiar scrolls, runes used for greater bone shield, and so on, but these are very situational and dependent on the boss of course. 2 places you could potentially be saving money though are aura extends using Viswax and Lantidime incense sticks. Auras have an easy little thing you can do. Before logging out, if you still have an aura on cooldown which you're going to be using the next day, make sure you activate that aura before logging out, as when you log out, the aura timer is actually paused. So what about Lantidime incense sticks? Lantidime incense sticks are a little bit of a trap. They actually don't even save you money. They cost money. Let's take the Elder Overload Salve as one of the most expensive potions, and thus a potion with the most money-saving potential, as an example. Each Elder Overload dose lasts 6 minutes, so you'll need 10 doses per hour. While overloaded on Lantidime incense sticks, you have 2 additional minutes of potion time per dose, and thus only require 7.5 doses per hour, or in other words, 2.5 doses less. This is at a cost of 11 incense sticks per hour, including overloading on it, and then extending it to a 60-minute long-lasting duration. At current prices, this will cost you 242k, and it will save you 118k in Elder Overload Salve doses. So in other words, you're losing money. Now, even if you also use the most expensive Weapon Poison +++ flask, which only lasts 12 minutes or 14 with incense sticks, you're only saving a single dose or a 1/6 of its cost. That being said, if you extend to another hour, which will only cost you 6 incense sticks if you keep up your timer after having overloaded, it actually saves you a little bit of money. Is this item convenient? Yes. Is it cost effective? Well, that depends on how long you use it, but one thing you can do with this item is save time creating Elder Overload Salve potions, which can be a lengthy process. And that's one reason why people use these incense sticks, although personally, I wouldn't bother using these incense sticks unless you're doing bosses with long kill times such as elite dungeon runs or Zuck. Most of you watching will use augmented equipment for the perks, but it does come at a cost. being divine charge. Divine charges cost money to buy or time and components to make, but most people will be buying them. Now, your charge pack drains based on the tier and type of equipment you're using, in addition to the level of reduction you have. The player in the example on screen is using 4 pieces of augmented tier 90 equipment, the cost of which is as follows. Assuming averages at the highest invention item level and assuming 80% uptime in combat per hour, the tier 90 body and legs will cost you 472,000 coins per hour. That's quite a lot of money. It is worth noting that certain special armor sets, like Serenic that degrade to dust, when made with divine charges do not actually cost divine charge, but this necromancy armor set does. As for the tier 90 weapons at 80% uptime, those cost 352k. While the reduction may not be massive, it does add up over time. The money-saving tip is to unlock your charge pack drain reduction research at each level, and to use the Invention Skill Cape perk to your advantage, preferably through the Skill Cape rack, aka stand, as then you can use other perks on your cape as well. If you're interested to calculate your own coins per hour depending on your adventure level, tier of equipment and so on, use the wiki link in the description below. It's a super insightful calculator. With that being said, we've covered this video's tips to save money while PVMing. What are your tips to save money while PVMing? Share them with fellow viewers down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.